My questions, at least, are going to start with PFAS. As you know, there's ongoing debate over the definition of PFAS as it applies to a range of federal regulatory regimes. I'm concerned that there is no current, consistent, agreed-upon definition for these chemistries being used across government agencies. While some PFAS chemistries may need urgent regulation to keep our communities safe, I'm concerned that EPA is needlessly restricting critical PFAS chemistries essential for American manufacturing. And I'm not the only one that's concerned. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a report from the Department of Defense on critical applications of PFAS substances.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, I want to quote from the Department of Defense report. It says, losing access to PFAS due to overly broad regulations or severe market contractions would greatly impact national security and DoD's ability to fulfill its mission and impact domestic industrial manufacturing and supply. The report raises concern about regulatory risk to our nation's national security, industrial base, and overall economy. On page 15, after all, as the report reminds us, the DoD is reliant on commercial industry for its applications. So the report cautions there's no consensus on PFAS definitions, and a simple grouping together of over 38,000 specific individual chemicals does not inform whether a compound is harmful or not. So, first question, are you aware of the 2023 DoD report regarding PFAS?
Yes, Senator, I am aware of it.
Okay, does the EPA intend to establish an expedited review process for PFAS with less concerning hazardous profiles, or for those used in limited volumes but critical to technological innovation?
Yes, actually, my office has already developed a framework just like that. And what it basically says is if the PFAS is going to be used in a sophisticated industrial environment, like, say, the semiconductor sector has, workers are protected, environmental releases are controlled, there will be a path through the new chemicals program for PFAS like that. And we agree that while PFAS have unquestionably contaminated a large number of places in the United States, we also think that if the new chemicals provisions of the 2016 law had been in place all along and EPA had been charged with making sure that the new chemicals were being used responsibly, we would have a lot less PFAS pollution in the country than we do now.
Have you met with DoD to try to go through with them which of those PFAS chemistries they believe are pivotal to national security, as they mention in the report, and those that are not?
I've met with DoD myself a number of times, not just on PFAS, but on other chemicals that are going through the TSCA process, and we are very committed to continuing to work with them to make sure that our work in the chemicals office doesn't undermine military readiness or remove their access to things they need to do to keep us safe.
Okay, can you help us by returning to this committee a list of these 38,000 chemicals that DoD feels that they need to have access to without undue restriction, and those that you feel are appropriate for higher scrutiny?
I'm not sure how I'd go about that list without knowing exactly what DoD needs, but I can also say that there's more than two options under TSCA. It's not use it without restriction or ban it. There's also use it responsibly. And I think that's what we're striving for when it comes to critical uses of chemistries, not just PFAS, but some of the others that we're looking at as well.
Okay, what might that look like?
It could just be don't dispose of it in sources of drinking water. It could be make sure that when your workers are handling it, they're protected either with PPE or with engineering controls that prevent exposures to them during key tasks. It's a whole range of things, and I don't think the choice is ban them all or continue as we have for the past, decades in ways that clearly harmed human health and the environment.
Okay, as you know, we're sometimes demanding that we onshore products that we've offshored, and then we want to restrict them from onshore manufacturing to the point that we can't onshore them. And so we are sort of giving with one hand and taking with the other. And I think that this is an area, chemistry, where there needs to be some very careful consideration, working with industry, working with Department of Defense, to make sure that we're finding the sweet spot. I thank you for your testimony, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
You bet. Thank you.